think more focused. Let me say more.
Okay. Sunrise today, yes, indeed, continuing our conversation, but this time we're switching to politics and how it's playing out in Edo State ahead of the governorship elections. As you've seen in that welcoming slide, we've got Ighodalo here with us. He is a governorship aspirant for the PDP in Edo State. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Good morning, Yota. How are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Quite a while.
Yeah. It's like we're competing our voices. Which one's deeper? Yours or mine?
You are here. I'm not here. So that means yours must be better and deeper, at least you. I guess if I was qualified, I'll be sitting where you're sitting. You know? Yeah, but thanks for the compliment. Yeah.
How's your campaign going on now?
I think it's going good. It's hard work, focused work, a lot of sleepless nights and things, but it's going good. You know, we thank God. You know, so we have a good team working with us, good team of girls and guys. So I think we're working hard. We're working very hard. We're trying to reach out to the people of Edo State with our message, and I think it's going good, by God's grace. Each day we get better, and each day we're able to pass on our message to the people. Yeah.
So has it been what or how you expected the build-up to be? I mean, coming into this position, vying for that ticket. It's one thing being around it, but now being in the saddle, seeking for that ticket. In terms of how people have responded and reacted to your candidature, your aspirant, has that been any surprise for you?
Yes, because I've been really overwhelmed. I've been truly overwhelmed by the response of people, people from every side of the divide, even people that people claim are on the other side. You know, when I've reached out to people, when I've talked to them, when I've tried to pass my message on to them, I've received very great responses from the people, from the leaders in the party. I'm really surprised by the reception and the welcome. So I am happy about that. Like I said earlier, it's a lot of hard work, focused work. You need to move from place to place, people to people, selling yourself, selling your message, telling people what you have for the state, staying focused on the people and the state and how you can improve the state. But I'm really, really overwhelmed, and I'm humbled by my reception. People have been good to me. People have been very good to me.
Coming from your background, before delving into politics, I assume that you must have counted the costs and then done your analysis or wherever it was going to take you. So could you talk to us about what kind of, risk analysis did you do before delving into politics, the murky waters of politics, as they call it? Obviously,
you know I didn't do any risk analysis, because if I did any risk analysis, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's I won't call it murky waters. It's just areas we don't fully understand, and it's a different area, different dimension, sometimes different thinking. So I won't call it murky waters, but it's a difficult way, and you really have to get to understand it. For instance, when I got into politics, I needed to do a lot of self-selling, because I've been in other spheres. I've been in the corporate sphere, the legal sphere, where I'm well known. But as a politician, and in the nooks and crannies of Edo State, I wasn't as well known as I am in the corporate world. So I needed to sell myself to my people, introduce myself, tell my people what I'm capable of doing, who I am, and what I can provide, what I want to provide, my desire to move us into the first world, to move our people out of poverty into prosperity. So yeah, if I looked at the cost, from a risk dimension, I probably would have been so overwhelmed that I'd have stayed back at home, But I decided, because I feel this is the hand of God in my life, So I didn't stop to count the cost. If I was going into an investment or something else, yes, of course I'll do the risk analysis, but this is different,
Are you implying that there's no risk in this
There is.
venture?
I'm saying that if I stopped to analyze the risk, I wouldn't have got out of bed. That's what I'm saying. There's high risk. There's risk from very many dimensions. Yeah.
Okay, but then there are those who will wonder, for one who has been taking stock of risk and then looking at ways to move around risk or to manage the risk as they build. Some would wonder, why didn't you stop to assess the possible risks that you're likely to come in contact with in stepping into this venture?
No. I had a broad sweep of what the risk would be. The downside, the worst case would be that it wouldn't work and I'll go back home. Really, that's the worst case. But once I put my hand on a plow, I give it my very best. And I do everything legal, effective, and efficient to make it work. And I knew that if I did my very best, by God's grace and by the support of the good people of Edo State, I should succeed. I should, and I would continue putting my hands on the plow, working very hard, passing my message to the good people of Edo State. But there's a risk. There's a downside risk. I'm giving up my life as I know it. And that's a major risk. I've been in a comfort zone. I've worked hard as a lawyer. I've worked very hard in the corporate world. Even in my NGOs, I've worked very hard. So I've known a way of life. But also, as I went through this way of life, I also knew that I had to look at life and giving back and working for my people from a different perspective. And that perspective, like I'd said before, was really, you impact lives in chunks of 5,000, 2,000, 10,000 people maximum. You should think of impacting life on a much broader scope.
Now you're thinking, if I use the word global. Edo global.
I said Edo global. Oh, yeah, because Edo is going global. Yes, global.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you see, Edo State's been in the news for different reasons. Good, bad, and all of that. Some of them very exciting. Historically, Edo State is one of the most historic states in, to be precise. So, coming in there, what are you going to bring yet? Before what are you going to bring? Yet Edo State has been hard done by. So, what is it that's going to make you different from all those that have come in with all the high hopes and dashing them midway?
No, it's not. Sometimes it's not Edo State that's been hard done by. Nigeria hasn't realized its full potential. And being a part of Nigeria, it has reflected in Edo State.
I spoke Edo State.
Yeah, so I'm coming.
When we beat the Benin Empire, the history and all of that, the strength of the Benin Empire was one that was next to Mali Empire, which is one of the strongest kingdoms on the African continent. So, if that be.
Yes, for instance, Benin, we had street lights in the 16th century in Benin. We were an advanced people, an advanced culture. But you then know the history of Africa, the impacts of the slave trade and all of that, and in bringing back and unwinding and unrolling development and advancements. But I don't want to go into that because that's something we should have let go over the centuries and over the years. We've had the capability, the resources, the people, the enterprise to have been able to move ourselves into the real world, into the first world. And that's the story I'm selling. I'm looking at my people in Edo State and I'm saying, we can move into the first world with the resources we have, with the capacities we have, with the natural and human capacities we have, and with the terrain we have, the landscape we have. So that's my story. And I'm saying, let us come together as one unified people of Edo State, looking into the future and working hard to do the things that will move us out of poverty into prosperity. There's in Edo State, and in Nigeria indeed, but in Edo State, which is where I'm focused, there's no reason why a mother is going to hospital to have a child, and we're all very worried about her chances of coming out. There's no reason why we have no water in many areas, where we have no light, where we have bad roads, where I can't cross the road to go and say hello to Chamberlain, because I'm afraid that in crossing the road, somebody's going to kidnap me and that's the last of me. There's just things that aren't working. They say it's a microcosm of the whole country, but let's focus on us and let's do the best for us so that we move Edo State. And my feeling is that if we have a number of states across the country that are taking this position and are working hard to move their economy into the first world inclusively, looking at the soft and hard social issues. If we have many more states or a few more states doing this, we will grow Nigeria bottom up. So we won't worry too much about what's happening here in Abuja, or won't worry as much, and people's focus would go to the state level, because truly it's the states that should drive development. And that's what we seek to do in Edo State.
Is it the states or the local government?
No,
because the states seem to have subsumed the local government that are supposed to be the driving force.
Yes, the local governments have a responsibility constitutionally, and we will let the local governments do their work and carry out their constitutional duties, because it's important. That's truly the grassroots intervention. But the state must set the example and set the pace, set the philosophy, set the policies, set the guidelines. And for me, leadership by example is what is critical. You must have transparent leadership. And if you do as you say, you always do as you say, everybody watches what they call the body language. But you do as you say. You set the right example. You must set transparency, hard work, focus, love of your people. That's fundamental. Okay. If you love your people, you will always wish your people well and do well by them.
So some of the immediate things you need to address, before you eventually merge. So how successful are you successfully shrugging off that impression or narration that you are handpicked or solely backed by the governor? It comes up every time when people want to talk, but I've known the governor for a long time. I knew him in university. He's my good friend. As an investment banker, we worked on opposite or the same size of transactions, So that's it. The people of Edo State are a unique kind of people. And if you look historically in politics, not just Nigeria, this story of somebody backing somebody putting anybody in office, it hasn't worked. Look at it historically. All those so-called godfatherisms don't seem to have worked. And the only true godfather is God Almighty and the people of Edo State. Those are my two godfathers, so that's it, but you will need support from wherever it comes, as long as you get to where you're going. So wherever the support comes, anybody will grab it. So if support comes from there, wouldn't you take it?
Yeah, if it came, I'll take it, but that's not where my support is coming from. My support is, I started this family and friends. That's how I started this process. And then associates in Edo State. That's how I started this process. Now, the good people of Edo State are taking over my message and taking me over. And so I'm being propelled by the good people of Edo State and by the grace of God. So that's how we're working.
So do you consider it a weakness for people to think that you are backed solely, or at least largely, by the governor? That impression, for instance.
It depends. The way the people have parlayed it is as if it is a bad thing, So it's not a weakness if it was true, and I would have welcomed it, if it was true, because it should make life easier for you, So I don't see it as a weakness. The way people have looked at it as if, it's a bad thing. So if it was provided, that would be great, But I don't see it as a weakness in that way, except people are looking at a downside to it. But I think the more important thing is to focus on our message. That's the more important thing. And the governor, I've heard him say a number of times that he's creating a level playing field. He has no candidate. And I believe him. Because if you looked at the space, I see he has 4 or 5 friends in that space. So I wonder why, when people say what they say, they think I'm his particular friend. I don't think I'm his closest friend or his favorite friend among the people in the space. So what I've just done is just not get distracted. Because for me, I see all of that as...
Do you disregard that with a wave of hand?
I disregard it. I disregard it generally because it's a distraction. I see it as a distraction. I see it as people who want to move the narrative away from the focus on the people and the issues that affect the state.
So you don't think that you need to look at it from the perspective of, say, probably if this is the way people are thinking, I need to analyze it and see how it's going to affect me negatively or positively?
I've looked at it. Obviously, there are those who think that if it's true, it gives you an undue advantage. So there's a negative and there's a positive. And I've looked at it. But for me, because I see it as a distraction, and because I see people want to twist it into a negative a negative advantage, a negative disadvantage, you know, I moved away from there. Because for me, it's a total distraction. You know, everywhere I go, this thing comes up, and I don't want to spend my time talking about it. I want to spend my time talking about what the issues are for the good people of Edo State. One of the things I noticed as I got more involved in this is that we need to kind of get our party working well as one united entity. So that's been my focus, and I've been going around the state talking to people, both the people and then the leaders and those who seem to have slight misalignments, and trying to get everybody to come back together. You know,
incidentally, that's how politics works. That's how people think. That's how people vote. So all of those things, you see them and you're like, wow, these are the things you have to deal with. It turns out.
And for me, it's my experience as also, you know, my experience in negotiating and talking to people and trying to get people to understand what the real issues are, and then reaching a transaction, a deal, and succeeding has helped me a lot in this. So I'm talking to people, and I think
so the professional experience also helps.
Yes, it has helped me a lot in this, and I think also I've been blessed, you know, because people have received me very positively. Even people that at the beginning appeared to be totally antagonistic. Once we start speaking and I tell them, you know, what I'm thinking, my own ideas, my own alignments, so, you know, I've received positivity.
When you speak, say you want to pull everybody together within the party. So how well are you doing? For instance, do you have the support of the legacy group?
Yes. So the way I'd like to put that is this, is that there are people that are trying to create schisms that are not as wide as people try and create. You know, in every grouping, in every organization, there'll be different views. There'll be people that think differently about certain issues, maybe philosophical, it may be otherwise, you know. So there are different thinkings within the party. And the way I see it, a chunk of it is philosophical and people's approach to how things should be done. And different people will have different approaches. So people label, some people legacy, new PDP. The way I see it is that I see people with different ideas about how to get to a common goal. And the common goal is, how do we deliver for the people of the state? You know, so what I'm trying to do is to kind of bridge that gap and say, guys, you know, we're all focused and we all want the best for the people of Edo State. So let's think the same way about this. So let's go on the same pathway about this.
Is that to say that you don't consider addressing any such group as legacy group?
What do you mean by legacy when you say legacy? You mean people that have been there?
No,
or not? When you say legacy, what does it mean? What's your own understanding of it? Because I tried to explain to you what it is, that people have different ways of thinking about delivering for the people of Edo State.
Yeah,
and because we have different ways of thinking, can we just aggregate and come close together the way we're thinking?
There's a group of people within the party that refer to themselves as a legacy group. Do you recognize that? That's
what I've just explained to you, Chamberlain, that it's a way of, a narrative, a way of thinking, a different way of thinking within the party. The focus of the party and the party leader and the party leadership is to create a better life for the people of Edo State. Okay, so there's a difference in thinking of how we will get to that objective. That's all it is.
Do you have the support of Chief Dan Obi?
Chief Dan Obi and I have spoken. We're great friends. He's not supporting me as we speak, you know, but we're great. At least we're developing. No, because I think at the end of the day, both of us will reach an alignment. We both should have an objective, which should be what is in the best interest of our party and what is in the best interest of the people of Edo State. Fundamental, you know. So once we aggregate to that, then the differential will be minimal. And that's what I am struggling and working hard to make sure we achieve. Let's all aggregate what's in the best interest of the people of Edo State. Clear. Then what's in the best interest of the PDP. Clear. Once those two things are clear, then we'll all get to the same place. That, for me, that's really the issue. You know, once those two things are clear, we'll get to the same place. We must think always in the best interest of the people of Edo State, which is my number one issue and number one point and my number one focus. Then what's in the best interest of our party? It's good that our party works hard to retain government in Edo State so that we can continue providing good services and good opportunities and for the people of Edo State.
Ayo.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin, sir, by highlighting the fact that your initials are AI. which also stands for artificial intelligence. But we'll come to whether or not technology is going to play a role. But you've been speaking quite a few about, you know, the politicians and political groupings in the state. I'm wondering if you think there is a necessity for what you would call political elite, or rather elite consensus in the state. There are so many people in the space, and so many of them professionals, no doubt. But this seat is going to be just for one person at the end of the day. Quite a number of political parties, quite a number of contestants or pretenders, as they say in politics now, in all of the political parties. Do you see a need for some kind of elite consensus, especially in the light of these groupings? Is it this senatorial group that should, senatorial area that should produce, or that senatorial district? Do you see a need for all the politicians, all the professionals in this space to come together and say, guys, let's have an alliance of sorts, a consensus of sorts that will make this easy for everyone, all in the interest of Edo State, as you keep saying?
Thank you very much, Ayo. I think what's key is, what do you intend to do for the people of Edo State? What do you intend to provide? I don't think it's an issue of an elite consensus or any sort of consensus. It's an issue of looking at what each person brings to the table and what each person seeks to provide for the people of Edo State to improve the quality of life, to drag people out of poverty, to increase our infrastructure content and infrastructure quotient. That's what's important. What are we doing to make life better for our people? Education, health, livable minimum wage, livable accommodation. You know, those are the important things. Each person, man and woman, having quality jobs, being happy with themselves. You know, that's what's important. So it's not an elite consensus issue. It's an issue of, what do we have to provide for the people of Edo State? What's our story for uplifting Edo State from the third world to the first world? You know, for me, that's what it is. And you know, when you're talking about consensus, if the consensus aggregates in that direction, then so be it. But that's the only thing that makes sense at this point in time. What is in the best interest of our people in Edo State?
Well, you know, anyone listening to you now, Mr. Ighodalo, and I say this with respect, would say, this is the same thing I've been hearing since 1999. Promises, promises. What do I have in mind for my people and all of that? Every politician has said exactly the same thing. And the people, I mean, every successive government says exactly the same thing. And then so it makes it sound like the previous guy who made the same promise didn't do anything. So on the one hand is the issue of the fact that you're a professional coming into politics, and on the other hand is the fact that these are the promises that have been made with people, to people over time. Trust has, by so doing, been eroded over the years, and you know that trust is at the heart of business, as it is at the heart of performance. So what's the plan to build that trust in a unique way as it has profited you in business?
Thank you. Let me say something. And when people say that in narrative, people suggest other people haven't done well or haven't helped in laying a fund, that's not correct. We've had many great leaders in Nigeria from the 50s till today, and each person incrementally has done good things. It's just that the aggregation of the good things haven't been enough to take us out of where we are. But we've had many great leaders who have done good things. So when people seem to suggest that there are people saying there hasn't been good work done before, it's really untrue. Really untrue. I don't want to go into the business of talking about good leaders and things and naming people that have been good leaders, but we all know historically. So please take that away. And I will never join that discussion or that narrative, because I always salute those who have gone ahead and have done fantastic things. Yes, I agree with you that people have been saying the same things. When people come on the campaign trail, they say these same things. But one of the things I tell people, and I say this, and I kind of use the expression and the adage, and I say, you know, if you want to employ somebody to work for you in this studio, you'll take them through some kind of test. you'll check their credentials, you'll see what they've done before, what they've achieved before, and then you'll see whether they're fit for purpose. Sometimes, some of the things we haven't done well is check whether the people we want to put into governance are fit for purpose. What did they do before? How have they worked before? What was their trust quotient and their trust level? What did they achieve? And how have they achieved what they achieved? So I think those are the important questions that we should ask ourselves before we then start looking at what they're telling us they want to do. Talk is cheap, but being able to walk your talk is the difficult part. And the only way people can know what you can do in future is to assess what you've done before. So that's what I am putting on the table. And like you've rightly said, at each political cycle, each political time, people come and say the same things. But you've seen some who have said those things and have kind of implemented and achieved. And you've seen many others who have said and haven't achieved. Now compare where they were both coming from. If you look at those and the antecedents of those who talked and walked their talk, and those who talked and didn't walk their talk, you will see that maybe what we should do a lot more of is when we want to give people the opportunity to serve us, let's interrogate what it is they've done before, where are they coming from, what have they achieved, who are they?
We've seen people change when they get into positions in politics.
Very true.
Would that happen to you?
No. Because, one of the things that I've looked at this, and part of why we've had problems with leadership is that thing you call change. People get into office and get carried away by very many things, and for different reasons, I don't want to go into the reasons, But if you stay true to yourself, and you put your feet on the ground, and I tell people, it's the people, not just the people around you, the people of the state, the people of the country. We should not deify leadership. It's just one from amongst us whom we have given the opportunity to try and lead for the time being. So we don't deify leadership. We put their feet to the fire. If people have made promises, please take them up on their promises. I was saying something about people saying the same thing and not achieving. It's largely our fault as the people. If people have told you they will do something, either they set milestones or timelines, which is the kind of life I understand, setting milestones and timelines for achievement. If people have promised you and then they don't do it, you should be able to come back to those people and say, you promised to do ABC and you haven't achieved. And you keep on going on and on until you get the opportunity to either remove them or keep them if they're doing well, So for me, it's clear, you must keep your feet by the fire. You must stay grounded. I'm hoping that those who surround me will keep me grounded if I'm elected into office by the grace of God. And you keep praying. You must hold fast to God. God directs us.
Well, as a strategist, I know hope is not a strategy.
Yeah, I know.
You're going to do things to make sure that happens.
But one of the things you can do, you stay within your cycle. You stay the same circle of guys and cycle of guys that have, or guys and girls, before I get into trouble with my daughter, guys and girls, who have kept you sane. You stay within.
Well, they say 24 hours in politics is a very long time.
Extremely so.
We still have several steps before the D-Day itself, but today is a significant day, so we wish you all the best.
Thank you
while
very
you
much.
Go at it. Thank you very much for coming on today as well.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome anytime. Governorship aspirant for Edo State's PDP, that's for the governorship elections. So that is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Goodbye.
I'm Neo Taegbe. Bye-bye.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Have a productive week.